The other day, I made a video, and I said that I don't believe that the candidates we had, no, the presidential candidates that we voted for in this election, the two main dominant ones, which we know, Trump and Harris, were appropriate for us. That were, in the sense that I don't think they fully represented either group that was rallying behind them, or in that they didn't really understand, to me, and I specifically believe that with Trump. And I just say that in terms of, I live in rural America. When I was in college, I was devoted to studying rural America because I like the issues I see really need to be changed, and I plan also to continue pursuing that education, continue studying it, because, and I'm not saying you have to go to school to understand what's going on in a place, in rural communities, in the working class communities. You just have to have a passion and things like that. But, and this is something that has always, when Trump ran in his first election, when he was first voted in for his first election, his first term as president, sorry. I kept hearing all the students around me, like, they so much adored and admired Trump. They adored and admired Trump. They adored and admired Trump. It's such a it mind boggles me. It leaves me speechless just how devoted they can be to him. And I'm not trying to attack anybody or offend anybody or say, you're wrong for believing or voting or wanting him to save the United States. I think we all want things to change within our country, within our communities, especially if you live in rural America or working class. But it's hard for me, it's very difficult for me to understand how people within my communities who live a lifestyle very, very disconnected from Trump, and how Trump could even represent or be an image for these individuals when and I said, he's just very disconnected, I feel like, in terms of the lifestyle he lives and the lifestyle we live. And I'm not saying that an individual needs to be poor and be self-made and work their way up to the top and climb to the top, but I just feel like in a sense it's very hard for me to understand how the people within my community could even feel that an individual like this, who has grown up with generational wealth, who's a very strategic businessman, can even come to even understand the daily lives that they live, if that makes sense, on a historical level, on an economic level, on a social level. I know people, I'm sure, for example, Donald Trump, I'm sure, has more leisure time to do the things he wants to do. An example would be traveling. I know people within my community, people that will be born here and that will die here, who have never left their towns. That's how crazy it is to me. Somebody who has lived in multiple states, somebody who has even moved to different counties, they will literally die. They will be born and die within their county, within their community. They will never leave it. They will never travel beyond. I live in West Virginia, so they will never travel beyond the Appalachian Mountains. That is kind of into a degree of what I'm talking about. But the next thing I want to get into is the idea of the idea that Donald Trump wants to revive the industrial sectors. We know that many rural Americans and working class Americans, they work as blue collars. They work in coal mining industry. They work in factories or manufacturing companies, which are things, and when I made my first video, I kind of generalized the fact that he has never really been to these places, which I understand he has during his campaigning, during his campaigns and things like that. But let me just continue on what I want to say. I think that as Americans, and if you look throughout history, we understand that working class communities in rural America is the backbone of this country. And I think that the reason many times we're seeing the problems within our country as a whole. And I see this, as I said, I live in rural America. I study it, I observe it too, is that rural America is sick. Physically, socially, and economically. It's degrading. I even read an article about West Virginia, and many of the towns are actually becoming ghost towns. Like, that's how bad it's becoming here. And, I understand that the Republican Party, alongside, with Trump and alongside the Republican Party, they want to go about, their main thing is going about reviving the industrial sector in hope of kind of rejuvenating these communities within the working class communities, rural America. But I'm going to be honest with you, that in itself is not going to bring about change or really stimulate these economies again. And I made a video before, and it wasn't really in depth, but I feel like in a sense though, with the idea of trying to revive the industrial sector and with reviving the industrial sector, I feel like we are instilling this idea within rural America, within working class Americans, that they had to still continue to be in the Industrial Revolution. And when Trump first came out, I remember actually seeing a campaign commercial, like an advertisement, and it was about the 1950s and 40s. And we understand that during that time period, you could be a blue collar worker and you could be very successful. You as a father could go to work, and the mother of your children could be fine at home. You could buy a house, you can buy maybe even a new car, and you could be perfectly fine. But what many people don't realize when you look at that historically is that it was post-World War II. And with post-World War II, all of Europe and all of Asia and most of the Pacific Islands as well were destroyed. And not only that, during that post-World War II era, there was so much infrastructural growth. Like, we were building. We were building highways, we were building homes. In today's era of the 21st century, you don't see that no more. You don't even see that within working class communities. Here in West Virginia, we're having a debate. There's like a big problem going on because we don't have the infrastructure to even have Wi-Fi. And yet small businesses are failing. Schools are having trouble because we're such a technological age. We have all these computers in the classroom, but we can't do what we need to do. But let me continue on from that. So with that idea of reviving the industrial sector, like I said, I don't feel like it entirely will do justice for what it needs to do. And because in somewhat, when Trump says that to me, I feel like he has a sense, it's creating a very one-dimensional narrative of who we are, and it's limiting what we can do. Because we're actually seeing in a lot of rural communities that they're experiencing many of their economic issues is due to brain drain. And it's what happening is those who are able to go to college, receive a post-secondary education, or even get a vocational education, they don't have enough employment within their sector to even stay, or even if there is, they are not getting paid substantially enough. So what they're doing is they're leaving to go to maybe a bigger area, maybe urban America, somewhere in that nature, to get that. And I feel like if the Republican Party as an entirety, if Trump and the Republican Party knew a little bit more about that, I feel like it wouldn't just be about it wouldn't just be about persuading rural Americans to devote and dedicate their lives to those industries. I think that they need to be encouraged to, be encouraged to open up to limitations, because I've seen it, that the Republican Party kind of instills this fear within their constituents, within working class communities, within rural America, that oh my goodness, change is bad. That many people here do have a fear of change. They're afraid of interacting with other cultures. I've seen it with my own eyes. Like, they're afraid of interacting with old culture. They're afraid of interacting with other cultures. They're afraid of the fact of reading. Like, they're afraid of literacy. They're afraid of growing. They're just afraid of so much growth and change. And I get the idea. I don't want people. I don't believe coal mining needs to be destroyed. I don't believe factories need to be destroyed. But when it comes to the big debate about renewable or non-renewable energy, to me, why can't we focus here in rural America on energy as a whole? Why do we need to fight on whether or not there's coal mining or windmills, or coal mining and solar energy? Why can't there be both? I think that you would stimulate a much better economy. I think we would have much more. I think people would go about trying to figure out how to be better inventors and better inventors and things like that. Trying to figure out how can we do better, how can we make better things. But let me continue on that. With the idea of, let me continue going on with trying to stimulate the economy, trying to bring back the talent that we lost from urban America. I think what needs to happen is that the Republican Party, like I said, instead of trying to limit us within these few industries, instead of trying to instill fear in us about change, I think what instead needs to happen is, I think that they need to first invest in vocational education, and many of them I hear, they're very, what is the word? They promote it, they say they would rather prefer children to go to vocational careers, the carpentry, the plumbing, the electrician. And I believe that we do need more of those individuals. Many in the 20th century, I think there was a healthy balance of people who had a college education, and healthy balance of people who had those type of skills. And I think that I believe that there are children within rural communities in the working class who would prefer to do those things. But I'm telling you that there's not, from what I see, there is not enough investment within that area. I think there needs to be more vocational schools built. I think there needs to be more funding to that. I know that when I went to high school, we had a vocational what is it called? Career and technical school. That's what it's called. But it was vocational education. But the problem is that there's 3 schools that are trying to compete to get into the school. And for the most part, the school that I went to, it was, you just walk down the hill. Those were the people that they were going to cater to first, and then they were going to cater to the 2 schools that were farther apart. So that's what I'm talking about. I feel like more investment, we need to grow that too. But I also feel like too, for students that want to, they're not interested in post-secondary education, I feel like the Republican Party should also invest in career exploration. I feel like many times the reason why so many students or children spend so much, well, I guess they wouldn't be children at that point, they would be adults, but you don't understand why people spend so much money on sometimes college education. It's because when you get to college and they say, oh, you can be undecided, it's okay, and people spend maybe a few more years than they needed to being in there. And I feel like if we would start career exploration, maybe in the 11th or 12th grade, people could get the credits they needed to. They could spend less time in college or in a post-secondary institution. They could get the experience they need to immediately go into the workforce. I think they could explore what different sectors they are, and that's something too. I actually wrote a paper about this, and I have yet to get it published, because it takes to be a writer, to write something that big is it's a little bit more difficult. But what was I gonna say? I forgot. But oh my goodness, hold on. What was I gonna say was, when I wrote this paper, I was kind of talking about the agricultural sector, the agricultural industry. And a lot of times people here in rural America, when we talk about agricultural, many of people's minds go to, oh, just being a farmer. But there are a lot of things within the agricultural sector that I believe that if that many of the students here, many of the children here, many of the communities here understood that, they would actually be able to, I think that we understand that rural America is big about agriculture, I'm sorry. Their basis wasn't an agrarian society. They have always been farmers. They've always worked with nature. But I believe that if we, stop the limitations of them with just the idea of being farmers, and I feel like many of our students could go and they could work in biology and create better seeds. They could go and understand the land to create better soils. What is it called? I think it's called soil conservation, things like that. They could understand, they can go into animal veterinarian, because we need more animal veterinarians. We need people that are going to work. Somebody like Dr. Pope, you know what I mean? We need more people like that, But I think that they just don't, and this is all around the United States too, I just don't, especially if you're from a low socioeconomic class, you just do not know what is out there. And like I said before, I understand Trump will be the president. I understand the Republican Party will kind of dominate the congressional body. And I do not mean to offend anybody or attack anybody. These are just simply ideas. This is what I've seen because I live here. It's what I know. It's what I know from studying it because, I live here. I'm passionate about it. I want things to change and improve. And like I said, I just don't understand how people who live a different lifestyle, who work in factories, who have, this is something I probably should have stated too, many of these people, I feel like, we talk about the Republican Party, from what I understand, wants to get rid of a lot of social assistance. They want to kind of phase out Social Security, but there's people I've worked with who, to a degree, have literally crippling disabilities like arthritis, like carpal tunnel, and they talk about, well, I have to work until pretty much they die. And they don't have the incentives anymore of what individuals once did. And I'm not really too, from what I know, from what I know, it seems like the Republican Party is becoming less and less helpful to a degree. I don't know if that makes sense. I just feel like if they understood that, a lot of times they talk about, government assistance is bad, but many of the people I know here, they work and they're still on government assistance. They work long hours every day, 5 to 6 days a week. And it just kind of saddens me that sometimes the Republican Party talks about cutting many of the programs that are going to assist them, not just in their younger years, but in their older years. It kind of just frightens me in a way. And I just don't understand how, with people who live very unfulfilling lives, some of them even, they try to escape so much they actually become addicts. They become alcoholics. They use illegal drugs. And and some of them, they can't even get the medical help they need to help them with the pain. And many times, and a big thing that's going on here in West Virginia too is the opioid crisis, and that is because big pharmaceutical companies were pushing the opioids on people who had very minor pains or who didn't need them, and it caused a crisis within here too. And I just feel like it like I said before, it really it just short circuits me to a sense of how you feel that many of the people within the Republican Party, especially Trump, can represent you or be an image to you and understand you when our lifestyle was very uncomfortable at times, very unsatisfying at times. And I'm not saying that Trump is lazy. I'm not saying that Trump doesn't have his days or his problems, or the people within the Republican Party don't have their days and their problems. But I'm sure an individual who has generational wealth, who's able to grow his wealth, I don't know then that's why a reason why I don't really connect with Trump or feel like he can connect with me, because how can that be possible? You know, just because he visits these places during his campaigns, I feel like if people really did their research, they'd understand the issues were going on. Like I said, rural America, the working class communities, they're sick in a way. You know, I'm not like sick, like I'm gonna put that in quotes. Like I said, you know, they need help socially, they need help physically. You know, our obesity rates here, you know, there's people here that are so addicted to Mountain Dew, it's rotting their mouth out. Like, that's a health risk here. Here, I don't know the rest of Appalachia, but I know here in West Virginia, it's starting to become a very issue. Like, I see people literally just chugging that stuff down. I know people are addicted to soda, but here in West Virginia, it's become a very big issue. I think they call it Mountain Dew mouth at this point. Like, it's become a very big issue. People's teeth are rotting out of their mouth. And when you have infections in your mouth, you know you could die. And like I said, we have trouble even getting medical help. We have not medical help, but, you know, medical insurance, you know. But like I said, like, I just find it hard for me to connect with individuals like that who are wealthy in a way. And like I said, I don't want them to be poor, but like, it's very hard to connect with individuals like that, especially when I feel like they don't understand really my community and how to improve it. And I'm not saying I have all the answers. I'm just saying here were a few suggestions, because I've done a little bit more research and I feel like maybe this could work. But like I said, it's not to attack anybody, it's not to offend anybody. These were just suggestions. This is how I felt. And you know, if you have any more information you can give me, because like, I'm always trying to improve and grow and understand candidates and people within the political office, understand the government as a whole. I mean, I studied history and political science, is what I do. So like, if you can inform me a little bit more, and not in a degrading way. I like to have friendly conversations, but not to just prove me wrong, to say haha, you're an idiot. But like, because that's not what they teach us when we study history and political science. They want us to teach us to expand our perspective, expand our points of view, to help other people who are having trouble understanding others, to help them understand. You know, that's what it is. No, I got into history and political science and even in education because I do admire people. I love people. I want to help them. I study history not just to learn about individuals, but I feel like people should understand it more to learn about themselves and their story. And I'm sorry for ranting on so long, but I think that these are just things that I feel like would clear up the first video and help you understand what I think more and what I feel like other people think as well. So yeah.